You're now listening to the Diversity Roundtable. I'm Pamela Klaba, entrepreneur, inclusion enthusiast, and the founder of Nonkosi Creatives with over 2 decades as a corporate HR professional. My goal is to give you insights into conversations with entrepreneurs and corporate professionals who have insightful stories of triumph and leadership. I uncover my personal journey from cultivating diversity and promoting inclusive communities. We'll also find out why building a prosperous society is vital for leadership roles. Subscribe and get ready to rise, lead, and help define the spirit of South African excellence. Good day. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Pamela Klaba, for the Diversity Roundtable. Today we are on episode 20 and the year is almost over. I am just so humbled and I'm so blessed. But before I introduce our guest for today, let me just talk about what our topic is. So our topic is Voices of Impact, Empowering Change, Leadership and Diversity in South Africa. So we've got Monde Ndlovu, who is the MD of the Black Management Forum. So thank you, Monde. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you for coming through. I know that you are very busy, but thank you for taking the time to be with us today. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Siswam.
Yes.
Thank you for the invitation to the round table
Yes.
of diversity.
Yes.
Yeah. The process of transformation has got different layers to it.
Yeah.
So Steve Biko also did say that black people also need to learn to live in a non-racial society as well. As much as white people must unlearn certain things, black people will also need to unlearn and learn certain things.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not sure how many people understood what he truly meant. That's why we're still trying to unpack even what Biko said.
Yeah.
So being pro-black must not be misconstrued as meaning that we are removing whites.
Now that you've answered that question, right, in the context of diversity and inclusion, so what do you believe are the biggest challenges that black professionals face in the corporate world today, and how can this be addressed? So what are you hearing in your community?
You know, there's quite a number of challenges. We are seeing, even just from a numbers point of view, at top management, we're not seeing much movement there in terms of increasing that base. I think now we're sitting still less than 20% of both African men and African women in top management in the private sector. Also, Africans in particular are also deciding to go into other business types. Going a little bit deeper, we also developed a paper that we submitted to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Some of the issues we raised there around the workplace, around pay parity.
Yeah.
That's still a big issue today.
Yeah.
Which is critical. The issue of which I mentioned earlier, profit and loss, having the authority, etc. So there's quite a number of those challenges, and we're still seeing affirmative action today still being challenged, even in courts. Right? Not just that, but also budgeting for penalties. Right? Companies budgeting, they're budgeting for it. So this behavior.
Yeah.
What is informing the behavior?
Yeah.
The question mark. On the other side, we're still seeing that power, the nature of power is to reproduce itself. That is why if a black male leaves being a CEO or a black woman leaves being a CEO of a listed company, the most likely replacement is always a white male. So there's also that layer of power that is unrelenting in the system.
Yeah.
So now, those challenges, when they collide, we therefore must have a voice that is able to articulate those views. Otherwise, we are going to experience black professionals either being too mute in the workplace or leaving the workplace. So I think those issues, the nature of power that's reproducing itself, even selection and recruitment and promotion is still skewed. Even towards, we've seen Indian women in specific roles, instead of African women in specific roles. There's C-suite issues. So there's still a systemic challenge, which is what I'm highlighting more than anything else, the systemic challenge.
Yeah.
Then the issue is, as a black professional, what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I assimilate? Do I articulate what I think? Or do I just keep looking for the next best role? Then it goes back to the question, what are we trying to achieve in transforming corporate spaces? Some black professionals are not in any organized space. Some of them are lone rangers.
Yeah.
Right? So they just go to work and keep at bay. The other issue that we've also seen is that from a networking point of view, some of them don't want to network. Some of them do not want to go to these lunches and go to, they don't want to do those things. But if you don't do those things, you won't understand the pecking order of that organization. You will not understand what makes them tick in informal places. Not just in formal places, but in informal places.
Because also work is not just a desk and a chair anymore, right?
Yes, it's not. So it's more dynamic now today.
Yeah.
So you've got to understand those nuances, and it takes time to do so. So that's also a major challenge. The pay parity is also a massive challenge as well in ensuring that there's equal pay for equal work between genders, and even within genders, between black Africans and white people. So those challenges, I'm saying, they are old. They're still there. What makes this worse? We did a research in 2015, 14-15. One of the things, it was called the Transformation Barometer. One of the things that came out of there was, it seems like black people would rather report to a white person than a black person. That's another possible issue. Why? Now, let's take it another step back. The first generation of black managers in democracy, they had a point to prove. Is that not so? And I think some of them, because of the pressure of corporate, the pressure of business, some of them began to, without knowing it, started to treat their subordinates the way they were treated when they were in their positions. Even that is not being dealt with or being called out to say, in fact, we do have some kind of psychological challenge when black people get into positions of power and misuse that legitimate power, which can be taken because these roles are borrowed. Right? They don't belong to us.
Yes.
So they can be taken. How are we supporting that transition into those roles? How we do it at BMF and how our branches do it in having these dialogues that talk about these challenges, which is a big part of development. So development is not only formal, going to school, getting a qualification, and then applying, but it's also inclusive of the informal side, where you learn even more there. And that's why it's important for executives to stay in the BMF. It's important for them to be there And it's important for them to mentor, yes, but when we do these informal engagements, that's where we learn even more. So we are seeing this mirage of issues which sound new, but they're quite old. They're old order. And trying to deal with all of them in our lifetime, I think we need to choose one or two. We won't be able to solve all of them, even in the next 50 years or so, because the power of business is pervasive. It's highly influential. It's also highly rewarding the higher you go, and how people understand that and also then lead as well at the same time and lead other black people as well. We've also seen that there's some white people who actually drive transformation more than black leaders. Why? You got to look at all of those matters. So it seems like much you take 2 steps forward, sometimes we're taking 3 steps back.
No, thank you so much for unpacking this, because I'm just like really now listening to you, and I just really want to read this question, because I just really don't want to ask it in a way that it does not mean what I want it to mean. So I'm just going to literally, we're not in TV here, Mo. They always tell people that podcasting is not TV. We're just sitting here having a conversation, and I'm just thinking now, you're looking ahead, so what is your vision for the future of leadership in South Africa, right? As a leader in the BMF. So what is your vision for the future of leadership in South Africa, particularly when it comes to diversity and representation?
I think that part of what we should desire is that as much as we articulate this big vision, we want black people to be managers, to manage the economy.
Yes.
Which is the massive vision. We must manage it. Sometimes it's difficult to break it down as to how do we get there. But I think the future of leadership in the country generally is that we need to be more intentional as individuals. Like this platform is quite intentional. You want to bring on people who've got different views, but with the sole purpose of inspiring, enlightening, giving insight. So I think the future is possible when we give of our time to building the next generation of leaders. When you first go into a leadership role, one of the first things that you should do is identify who's going to replace you. You should not come in and think you're irreplaceable. Even when you start your own business.
Yeah.
So the intentionality of wanting to duplicate what is good and committing to that process. And I think will get us there slowly but surely. That as individuals, the future is as bright as our ability to commit to our day-to-day value system. The other part is that being available for organizations like the BMF. Because it's important to have a home. And allowing that organization and others, so there's BMF, there's APSIB, there's ABASA, there's BLA, there's Triple B professionals, there's all sorts of them, the Black Business Council, NAFCOC, and all sorts. All of us are there in the space. Those organizations must survive. They'll only survive if we commit to them. If we don't commit to them, they will naturally die. So they are very important for the development of leadership in future, for our community. They're important to our community and the sustenance of our value system in business. And we need to make sure that we play our role even in that space as well, to make sure that those organizations continue to survive, even be resourced as well, because they need to be resourced. So that is what I think, how the future can be shaped, in identifying those key areas that, one, as a personal leader, I'm committing to being available I must mentor. I don't have to be 50 to start mentoring.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Even in your 20s,
Yeah.
you must start developing your replacements and giving of yourself and your time, being very clear on your value system, etc. What sustains our character is our value system, not our ability to make profit. And leadership is not about profit. Management is.
Yeah.
Leadership is not about profit. Leadership is about carving out a future for the country and our people. And so I think we really need to make it clear that we are fusing these different worlds into an individual, and that individual is you. It's not the next person. It's you. And the other thing as well, and this used to happen a lot in the BMF, people say, yeah, women don't get opportunities or whatever. So the stalwarts, even in a meeting, they would even pinpoint a complete stranger, maybe it's a new member who has come into a meeting or whatever, and say, please do this. So, why me? So, no. You like to complain that there's no opportunities for black people or women, etc.
Yeah.
So they would do that. They would push you into leadership. That's what they would do. Doesn't matter if you're new or old. So no. You need to take care of this. You need to do that. Pick up your hand. Get involved. Stop sitting on the sides and saying there's problems. No, here's a vehicle. Get involved. And one of the things my father used to say, that it doesn't matter who is disadvantaged, whether it's black people, whether it's women, whether it's youth, we must all deliver. We must all be productive.
Yeah.
Right? That's the end goal.
Yes.
Is that, yes, there's discrimination, but you must deliver.
But then we mustn't be come with a pity party head on.
We must
right,
deliver.
You must work and deliver.
So the future of leadership is one that will be productive in making sure that we transform the country in more ways than one.
So let's build on that. Finally, if you're not inspired, honestly, for our viewers, we're sitting with a young man here who's managing our episode and who's recording our podcast. His name is Zifanele. So I was telling him that if he's not inspired today, then I don't know if there's hope for you, my brother. But anyway, back at you, Monde. So now that let's build on that, because that was just so inspiring that it doesn't matter who is disadvantaged, we must all deliver. I like that. It is just so profound. And so what is then your personal leadership philosophy, uncompromisingly, and how do you apply that in your work in the BMF today?
Yeah, so I think for starters, like I said earlier, one doesn't come out of nowhere, right? So I come from somewhere. And we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Absolutely.
And so that's key always to note that we stand on the shoulders of giants. So that's the first point. Number two, there's just so many ways in which to carve out leadership. It's not this or that.
Yeah.
It's this and that together at the same time. So my philosophical outlook encompasses both courage and compassion. Right? Leadership must be courageous. It must break the barriers. It must break down the walls. But even the tools of breaking them down are very different. Because we're not breaking them down to start a war, but we are breaking them down to get others in. Then that is a difference. Now, if someone is breaking down barriers not to let others in, it means they're not breaking them down to let others in, they're actually breaking them down to set up a trap. And so courage enables us, that is grounded on the correct ethos, and I believe in the ethos of the BMF, which is equity, justice, and fairness. what is equity? Equity is justice in public.
Yeah.
Which is what we then see through our constitution. We're trying to drive equity, legislations that we see out there. That's justice in public. Fairness is justice in private. How you are conducting how fair are you with your dealings with people in your private space? How just are you in your private space? So courage, therefore, is built on this ethos that both in public you are a defender of justice and in private you are a defender of justice. You are courageous enough to call yourself out. You are courageous enough not to be afraid of correcting yourself. You're not afraid of analyzing. You're not afraid of reflecting. And very few people are courageous enough to self-reflect. So it needs courage. Maya Angelos used to say, courage, I'll put it in my own words, without courage, you are unable to fully apply all the other values consistently. So you need courage in order to. And so it pieces everything together. So courage is needed. Then there's compassion. On the other side, compassion forces you to look outside of your own needs, look outside of your own ambitions. Sometimes it is true leadership to say, I'm actually not the best person for this. Let me take a step back. And in most cases, we know who should be in that space and not ourselves. We need to do more of that.
Yeah.
So the mixture between courage and compassion in your dealings with yourself, in your dealings with people you work with, trying to understand where they are, and empowering them to be courageous and believe in that leadership philosophy as well.
So you sound like you've really also been intentional on your leadership journey, but also the follow-up question in my mind now is that who have been some of your mentors or role models, throughout your career, and what have you learned from them? So maybe mention one or two. If you want to call them by name, great. But I'm just quite curious because I think for me you come across as there's this thing that I always say that I always have in my head, and I constantly remember it all the time. It's about simple living and deep thinking. Right. So you come across as those people for me that live a simple life, but are deep thinkers. And deep thinkers then tend to spring into action and do things and do really courageous things. So who have been your mentors in this space and your role models? That's actually what I'm asking. And what have you learned from them?
Sure. So I'll go back to... Okay, so I've always resonated with people that pay attention to me and see me. So someone who has the ability to see beyond what is visible. So just like at boarding school, the teacher would always, every week, when she sees me or bump into me, Monde, when are you going to? And that has stuck with me. I'm not at the United Nations, but
but you get there.
She planted that
the seed. Yeah.
So I think since how old was I? 13, 14.
Yes.
Almost every week.
Yes.
Or if I bump into another place, Monde, when are you?
Yes.
So we didn't have a mentor-mentee relationship.
Yes.
But she was someone who was a mentor in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Always calling you to a higher standard of what she thinks you are. So she played that role. Sure. So many teachers, even her husband as well, really believed in the rectors. He believed in us. He believed in me. He was always about learn how to articulate yourself, right? So in English, he was teaching us new words every week.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I want you guys to develop a vast vocab.
Yeah.
Instead of using this word, you need to use a different word.
Yeah.
And he really believed in black, because he was an Englishman.
Yeah.
Believed in black talent.
Yeah.
And express. You guys need to learn how to express yourselves.
Yeah.
Very, very well. The whole class, yes. But understanding the history of the country, and at that time, and most of the class, I think even then was African. We did have whites as well, but really wanted us to learn how to articulate ourselves. So here's another one. There's another English teacher in matric.
Yeah.
Sure, she was also truly special.
Yeah.
Someone who would see me. I won't tell you what she nicknamed me, but when I saw,
I'm curious. Now I want to know. I want to know. Don't run away from that.
So an exercise.
We want to know the nickname.
And exercises that we did.
He's not listening to me.
And exercises that we did. Okay, I'll tell you. Exercises that we did before we left in matric.
Yeah.
Everyone has that book. There's a book.
Yeah.
And in that English class, you'd write, or you'll see the name, or it says Monde. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the first thing? Or describe Monde. Monde is this, that, and that. And then you would move those books around. We did it for, I think it was an hour and a half or something. And then she would also write in that book.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't write your name to say, this is what Conrad is saying about Monde. No. You just write what you think of him or her.
Yeah.
But her handwriting, I know her handwriting because she would write in my books and all of that. And when I saw, I was like, no man, I know this is her. So I'll tell you what she said, because you want to know.
Yes, I want to know.
I'll just tell you one of the things she said.
Yeah.
She said, Monde is a young Steve Biko.
Aha.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
And amongst other things that she said. So that really touched me. That really touched me as well. Yeah. I was an activist at school. So, but that really touched me. So she definitely played a massive role as well, and so many other people. When I got into the BMF environment, I had people like Omncane Mthunzi. There you had Professor Kuhlu. As well, amazing. I'm still really inspired by him till today. I want to be like Professor Kuhlu. When you sit with him, and the way he, my father described him as someone who builds consensus. So he doesn't just make decisions; he builds them with you, and you can see, and that's a very rare skill that leaders have, and he has that. Quite amazing. Masasila Kuzwayo, when she saw me for the first time, I didn't know who she was. Former deputy president of BMF. She pulled me aside, said, "Hey, I've got a present for you. Please make sure we see each other." Okay, mom. And then she took her details, and then she made me do an Enneagram test. She says, "I want us to unpack this. I want you to understand who you are. I want you to understand your leadership. I want you to understand your management style. It's important." She paid for that as well. Mr. Mteto Nyati is another one as well. Sat down with just so many of them. I've not mentioned all of them, but there's just so many of them that I've interacted and interfaced with. Pomakwana is another one that I see who challenges me. We sit every now and then as well with him. And having said that, my biggest motivators, and I'll go back to the first thing I said, is my parents. My parents are the reason why I am who I am. They are the reason where I am today. I still use a lot of my father's tools and thoughts, my mother's tools and thoughts. I'll tell you another story. I wanted to leave. I think it was my first boarding school.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to go, and all of that. So I got on the call with my mom. Phone cards, right? Card. And mom was like, yeah, listen, your father's telling me here that you want to leave. She says, no, I understand why you want to. I understand that you say, yeah, I want to go and all of that. But then she said, these words I'll never forget. She said, listen, my boy, if you decide now, today, that you want to leave, you must know this is what is going to happen. And she said, you will never finish anything else in your life if you don't finish there at that boarding school.
Sure.
How old was I? I was 13, 14.
Yes.
I mean, really, I'm 13, 14, and you're hitting me with, such deep. Listen to me, Mfana. Yeah. If you leave, it's fine if you want to go. It's your choice.
But just know.
That if you do go ahead with this decision, you will never finish anything else in your life that you start. Boom. Drop mic. That hit me. And I went back. Stay put. I went back. And the next year I was head boy. And so the timely counsel, not just wise counsel, but timely counsel, of our parents, leaders who have gone before us. Their timely counsel must always be taken seriously. They may get it wrong here or there, but wisdom is built when we engage people around us, different communities around us. Wisdom is built. You don't build it by being by yourself and saying, you know what, this is what I want to do. No, bounce it off. Go sit down with your leaders, people that you look up to. So there's quite a number of them. Mr. Jabu Hlongwane, who's the reason why my parents got married, by the way. They met through him. He's still around. He's still there. One of my uncles as well, Ndlovu, is there. There's another uncle of mine. You see, I've got many stories. There's another uncle of mine after my father passed away. So he was leaving, and he says to me, Monde, I'm only telling this to you once. Your father has worked. I'm grieving. It's a day. In fact, he left later on the day of the funeral. So, you're still disorientated. I'm leaving now. Firstly. So, I'll come back, but I'm leaving now. But two, I want you to know the following. Your father built something here, right? His family's built a foundation, etc. Number three, I don't want to hear that you are messing up anything that he did. Those were his parting shots. When he left that evening, those were his parting shots. Monday, I don't want to hear anything. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem. So my uncles are also there, making sure. So I've been immensely grateful. I've been immensely blessed that I've got a massive community around me of mentors, leaders, etc., that have impacted my life. What challenges me when I look at all of that is I need to be that to others. And when you call to say, here's a podcast, I'm not really a podcaster person. But when you call and it is almost short-circuiting talking to many people, but at the same time. And trying to, share my story, a little bit of it, and hoping that one of the things that we said may trigger them taking their leadership journey seriously and taking themselves more seriously, that we are here to serve and be impactful. It's really that simple. And that is why in my head, what else can I do to be what my community has been to me for others?
So as we're about to close, so you said earlier that that which you do not transform dies, right? So how then do young people, young professionals get involved with the BMF?
I think for starters, it's one or two things. So there is the spirit of the BMF. So it's one thing to interface with it.
Yeah.
But it's another to study it.
Yeah.
Get into the organization, but make it your own. So get involved, understand the organization, but study the values of the organization and study the principles of the organization. Understand the soul of the organization. Embrace it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it is you out there, not you inside BMF, that will make a difference. So you come in, you embrace the organization, it embraces you, study the organization, participate, expose yourself. There's a lot of networking that goes on. There's a lot of events that happen. Spread your wings, get involved, pick up your hand to participate at branch level with the organization. What else can I do for BMF? And get involved in the life of the organization because it is developing you for out there. The BMF also believes that you don't graduate in the BMF. There's no such thing. Just because you got your undergrad, that now you think that you're done. No, you're not. You must do a postgrad. Okay?
Yes.
You're not done. You must do a master's.
Keep going.
Now,
Yeah.
So that's the power of a value system. Such as the BMF, you keep graduating. You never finish. You may leave the organization today and come back in 5 years' time, and you're like, no, there's still more to learn.
Yeah.
So even if someone like Prof Nkutlu is still today within the ranks of BMF, that should tell you something. It should tell you a lot. At 80 years old, and then you have young people that say, I don't have time for this. And I was talking somewhere, and I was saying to those young people, you know Professor Wiseman Nkutlu? No, we don't. Professor Wiseman Nkutlu is the first black chartered accountant in the history of South Africa. You must know Professor Nkutlu. Yeah. So, and you'll know of him to get involved in these things and study the history. And also, again, as much as there's more writing happening now, there's still a lot more that must still happen to cover, because so much has been done by these stalwarts. The things that they've powerful things. We're still uncovering it. Things they've done through the BMF, because the BMF has bequeathed a lot of ideas. So young people get involved in the BMF, fall in love with the value system. There can be other negative issues like all organizations, but you must get involved in the life of the organization. How can you be of service to the organization? And most importantly, you carry the ethos out there more than anything else. And that's where it matters most, is that you must carry the BMF with you where you go. So that's how I would say they get involved. Yes, there's formal ways. Become a member, pay your membership, and then you get communication, and then other people then just sit after that. I paid my membership, and then, I don't understand what's really going on. Get involved.
Yes. So instead of expecting other people to do things, right? So how do you get involved and be active and actually have a voice within the organization?
Yeah.
Monde, thank you very much. So as we're about to close, before we go on and on, I could sit here the whole afternoon, right? But we don't want to do that. We've got things to do. So what are you then looking at our viewers and our listeners? What are your final words for our listeners and our viewers in the context of the leadership landscape in South Africa, and then just some of the key takeaways from today's conversations and what they can look out for coming out of the BMF between now and the future?
Yeah, so I think I'll use this. It's one of my favorite leadership frameworks.
Yeah,
it's called cathedral mindedness. Cathedral mindedness.
Unpack that. Yeah,
talks to. So there was an architect in Barcelona in 1882. Around then, who decided, no, I want to build a cathedral. And people kept going to him, when are you finishing this thing? When are you finishing this thing? So, no. My client is not in a hurry. He ended up dying without completing the cathedral. If you search today, that cathedral is called the Sagrada Familia. They are predicting it will be finished in 2026. So the continuous improvement of something, the philosophy of building for the future, the commitment that I will be responsible with the little influence that I have today to put a brick on this cathedral, which we call the transformation of our country. It is generational. This generation puts this brick. That generation puts that brick. When people ask, when is this cathedral going to be finished? You say, my client is not in a hurry. So, and not to say transformation is not urgent. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the philosophy around that there's only so much you can do. But with the little that you can do, make sure that the brick you put on this cathedral is purposeful, is intentional, and is clear that this is your contribution to leadership, to South Africa, to your community. So our young people, our viewers must have clarity as to what is their purpose, what do they want to do, what do they want to leave behind, because it will be left, something will be left behind.
Yeah.
You don't live forever.
Yeah.
You live for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So just like the architect, I'm going to start the project. Other people will finish what I've started. And hopefully when people look at what we have done, they will see that there was thought, there was intention, there was vision in what is being built.
Monde, thank you so much. Thank you for your gracing us with your presence. Thank you for being humble. Thank you for allowing us into your space. And thank you for your mind and your thoughts and sharing your experiences, your life and the BMF, and just really the inspirational people that surround you as well, and that has shaped the outstanding and the admiring leader that you are. So we're just really, really blessed. And I'm just so grateful that our paths crossed, and I know that I'm the one who phoned and I don't take no for an answer. So here we are. So thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. You have been listening to episode 20 of the Diversity Roundtable with Monde Ndlovu, the MD of the Black Management Forum, covering the topic Voices of Impact, Empowering Change, Leadership and Diversity in South Africa. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you and we love you. Please be clear and be intentional about your leadership journey going forward. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
You're now listening to the Diversity Roundtable. I'm Pamela Klaba, entrepreneur, inclusion enthusiast, and the founder of Nonkosi Creatives with over 2 decades as a corporate HR professional.
My goal is to give you insights into conversations with entrepreneurs and corporate professionals who have insightful stories of triumph and leadership. I uncover my personal journey from cultivating diversity and promoting inclusive communities. We'll also find out why building a prosperous society is vital for leadership roles. Subscribe and get ready to rise, lead, and help define the spirit of South African excellence.